Hello folks, hope you're doing well. Welcome back to another One Piece review. This time we're covering Manga chapter 1190. So, school is in session for Luffy once again. Scopper schooling Luffy. Scopper was never going to defeat Emu, but at least he bought Luffy some time. Look, there's some irony in the ending of this chapter. Maybe now this is what's going to trigger Luffy to actually get into the game and actually maybe upgrade his Conqueror's Hockey. Maybe. I'll get into that shortly, but before we get into that, let's get into the cover page with the cover request. And I don't know if Oda did this by design because of the ending of this chapter, but we get Shanks and Luffy as Shanks is grilling fish for cats. Although, if you look at Shanks, he's definitely got his other arm. So we start off the chapter with Scopper blocking Emu's attack to save Luffy, who's still pinned to that tree, by the way, with those two swords. The tree, or at least the log that's behind Luffy that he's pinned to, actually gets carved into pieces, which is actually which I find funny because that's the only reason why those swords came out of Luffy, is because the log smashed apart. Finally, see, that's why the swords are no longer stuck in Luffy's body. So I thought that was kind of funny. Part of the Adam tree now is actually getting destroyed. Clear-cut indicator that Scopper's using Advanced Conqueror's Hockey here. Luffy is just like suffering up the ass because of this, and Scopper's like, what a hideous form, you don't seem to be of this world. Emu's like, you know, who art thou? And Scopper's like, oh, someone who understands the world. I love how this is going on, by the way. Emu's just standing by as Scopper is just picking up Luffy, getting pissed off at Luffy. He's like, get up, Straw Hat, you are an embarrassment, you're a disappointment. Injured old man just saved your ass. You have a new form and you're an emperor, but don't get cocky. I'm glad Oda's kind of leaning into what I talked about when I reviewed chapter 1188. Again, you just see Emu looking on here, like, doing nothing. But I do like Scopper's words here. Do you want to die here? Do you know what's going to happen if you croak though? And Luffy's like, I won't be able to save my friends. And Scopper's like, yeah, that's right. And what will happen to your crew? They'll be in danger. Scopper goes on to say, remember when you rise up in the sea, the number of enemies you're targeting only increases. Like, bro, you're up against possibly the final villain in the series. Like, how much more could it increase? I guess with the potential Blackbeard, it could raise even more. We don't really know right now. The King of the Pirates is a title reserved for the one whose death is celebrated because everyone's gunning for their throne. If the part of you still thinks becoming king is going to be a stroll in the park, go home. Get the hell out of here. Proceeds to throw Luffy away. Like, but he's giving him some distance, so because Scopper knows Luffy is Emu's target right now, not him. But then Luffy is super triggered by his words because he knows Scopper's right. He knows he's right. If he keeps running his mouth, I'll show him. Show him what? You've been schooled ever since you met him. So it's like, you need to step it up, Luffy. So this is where the action really kicks in, because Scopper comes in flying with the axes. Emu blocks it with the staff. And then Scopper's calling out Emu, don't you want to kill him as well? Emu's like, yeah, I sure do, indeed. He realizes Luffy's a threat, but he doesn't acknowledge Straw Hat Luffy's strength. He acknowledges Joy Boy, which is one of the keys I talked about. It's like, even though he mentioned Straw Hat Luffy, he said that to mention it in the same brain as the three brothers. He didn't really say it to acknowledge Luffy's strength yet. So that's the key here. Then Scopper kind of calls out Emu. He's like, he reminds you of him, doesn't he? Joy Boy. What gave that away? And then Emu's like, who art thou? Thou must not know Mu. And then Emu proceeds to bring out another sword, the Hanabami Toshiro. Emu uses it. Scopper's able to dodge it. Scopper says, oh, I live from Joy Boy's own words, but don't get me wrong, I have no intention of chasing after a person from the past that I've never seen or met before. So I'm like, okay. So to me, is this implying something about the poneglyph that Robin is about to showcase to everybody? Because if that's the case, then I think like Luffy has to be there, right? Because Luffy has the ability to hear the voice of all things, much like Roger did. Pay attention to what Scopper says here. It says, I learned from Joy Boy's own words. So did he hear him, or did Roger hear it and give that back to everybody else in the crew? I feel like that's just where it's going, but where did he hear this? Was it an poneglyph that left behind? And if it did, is that a poneglyph left on Elbaf? Is that the reason why Scopper chose to live on Elbaf. I can't help but feel that's just convenient that there happens to be a secret when it comes to Elbaf with a D in its name. There's potentially a raw poneglyph that Rob has found that we're about to see for ourselves. What else could it be? But if Luffy's able to hear the voice of all things and Robin can't, that's going to tip things over the edge as far as like a lore reveal. Oda decided to focus this chapter on Scopper versus Emu, but it's just one of the things I took away from this chapter. It's like, okay, Oda's definitely hyping up something involving this, what could be a poneglyph. I feel it's a Rob poneglyph. If people are still having doubts about what Robin found, I guess we'll find out soon enough. But he doesn't have any intention of chasing someone he hasn't met, though he knows from Joy Boy's own words. That's what he says. And this is where Emu found out who's this captain, and this is where Goldie Roger, the king of the pirates. And this, we get kind of a neat little flashback to when Emu's telling the Gurusei, this is the stage for why is D being called the king of the pirates. Do not let his name spread any further. Too late for that, because it's one that started the golden age of piracy. So Emu's like, oh boy. Emu's like, why would a former crew member protect Straw Hat Luffy? Scopper's like calling him out again because he's like, because you're trying so hard to get rid of him. If he's not a threat, why are you here? It's not because he acknowledges Luffy yet. He acknowledges what the potential of Joy Boy's reincarnation. But Scopper says when you declare a kid like that a threat, eventually someone that can surpass us will be born. And then Scopper goes on to say, you may as well have announced that he is the one we've been waiting for. And as he's saying this, you see a collage of panels of obviously Scopper in the present. You got Rayleigh, Crocus, Whitebeard, Kazuki Odin, and you got Shanks. So I thought that was a cool little touch. So if you couldn't be any more blatant without actually saying his name, obviously there's work to be done. Even at this point, Luffy is not at that stage. He is not at that level. Which raises the question then, what does that mean for Shanks? Is he above that level right now? Has he surpassed Roger like I suspect he has? I guess we'll find out soon enough if and when Shanks encounters Teach. Emu's like, you have a valid point. So he charges up his own and ready to strike Luffy again. And he's about to strike again. But somehow, Luffy gets out the way. He teleports. Now it's hard to say for sure because obviously it's like in panels. It's not action. It's not an action sequence like we'll get in the anime. But it seems to me like either Scopper got him out of the way, or Luffy jumped up and avoided the attack. So I guess we'll find out. But I don't know. What do you guys think? It kind of looks like Luffy jumped on his own, but especially if Scopper was worried at that point. We know he's not faster than Gunko. So before Gunko's transformation, so I'm just throwing it out there. And Scopper's a lot weaker, injured and a lot weaker than he is, so he's not going to be as fast. So did Luffy do that by himself? I'm kind of curious how the anime is going to construct that, but that's what it looked like to me. Either way, Scopper's jumping up and he's using Kamado, which is a huge attack. So he's using Kamado with advanced conquest haki. Emu pinned down for a moment, but it's like look at Emu's expression in his eyes. But then it cuts. You see that tree falling down to the realm of the dead. Which, by the way, Loki is in the realm of the sun alongside Nami and Usopp. So that tree fell to the bottom of the realm of the dead, and we come to find out that Scopper is at the bottom. So once again, he's back in the realm of the dead. We get to see Loki and we got to see Gerd. I failed to see Haradine anywhere in that panel. Do you? Considering you saw Haradine coaching Loki, hey, let's team up to take this guy down, our father's murderer. So that's definitely not going to get ignored by Oda. So we got, like I said, we got a panel of Nami and Usopp. I failed to see Brook or Gunko anywhere along with Robin, so they must be inside the tree right now. I don't know, but it's interesting that Oda decided to focus on Usopp and Nami and no one else. And this is where Luffy, after being pissed off by Scopper, finally actually shows some concern for Scopper, because not only did he get sunk crashing down to the bottom of the realm of the dead, laying on the tree, he's lost an arm. He's lost his right arm, similar to Shanks, who tried to protect Luffy as a kid. Now you got Scopper doing the same thing, indirectly losing an arm because of Emu. So that's how the chapter ends. This is how we're going to trigger Luffy and what happened with Shanks, and maybe that's going to trigger the Conqueror's Haki upgrade for Luffy, or it's still too soon, and maybe what happens with in between, like I suspect that Hardin, Loki, at the very least, Dory and Brogy should actually chime in to do something. I don't think Luffy's in any condition to do anything right now, but it's at least not until he gets his upgrade. So I feel like that's where Hardin and possibly Dory and Brogy were kicking. They have to do something. Again, this was a very simplistic chapter considering Oda just focused on Scopper and Emu and nothing else. That's fine, as long as we get to see Sanji unlock his Conqueror's Haki upgrade pretty soon, and that's going to be its own chapter anyway. Although I'm not going to lie, I thought it was going to happen in this chapter because it was Scopper involved, and obviously there's comparisons, but no, I decided to completely focus on Scopper Gaban versus Emu. Again, I got to give him props for putting in the work, but all things considered, the result should have never been in doubt. But this was pretty much symbolic, if anything else, to like trigger Luffy to get back in the game. Not going to trigger him to unlock Gear 6, because like I said 2 reviews ago, it's too soon to do that. So what else is there but to give Luffy a Conqueror's Haki upgrade? Is it forced? Absolutely. Luffy needed a kick in the ass because he's been performing badly. If he's been focusing too much on his Devil Fruit, he needs to start focusing and find a way to upgrade his Haki, like Oda introduced with Rayleigh back during the Luffy vs Katakuri fight. Haki blooms in the heat of battle. What better way is there for Luffy to get a Haki upgrade than right now? We're going to get that through Sanji, so we're going to get it through the rest of the monster trio, I feel. Although I think in Zoro's case, it's going to have something to do with him unlocking his swords to be Black Blades, more than anything else. That's just me. But obviously, I feel like Hardin and Loki have to do something. If nothing else, Dory and Brogy also have to do something to like just to add that emotional touch to the situation involving Emu. Like there needs to be casualties more than just Scopper here. I'm sorry, like this is the potentially the final villain. Scopper got off lightly considering what could have happened, but it's definitely going to trigger a flashback involving Shanks, which is going to trigger Luffy even more. Maybe he can get him pissed off. So, but I still don't like Luffy's chances because he cannot continue this fight against Emu the same way without a change happening. Like I said 2 reviews ago, it's way too soon to do Gear 6, especially if Oda is, and it's pretty much confirmed, they're hyping up Luffy to be the chosen one to surpass Roger. Considering the fact that Oda said that, through Luffy's own words, this is his peak. This is his peak, but this peak is getting his ass whipped. Although I like the fact that Scopper also hyping up what could be the reveal of Robin and what she found with Raponeglyph when Oda decides to reveal that. I feel like that should come last because save the best for last. The fact we didn't see Gunko or Brook anywhere leads me to believe, are they in the same area as Robin right now? Possibly. And will Gunko play a factor if we get another repeat of what we got on Egghead Island? I don't know if people are going to be too happy with that, but if Luffy's not ready for this, there has to be another way for Luffy to separate Emu, otherwise Emu's just going to straight up kill Luffy, which we know is not going to happen. So the only other thing besides Luffy getting a Haki upgrade to maybe put up a better fight, maybe has something to do with Gunko forcing Emu back to the Holy Land temporarily. Because right now Luffy's in no condition, something needs to change. Scopper, I give you props for putting in the work, but it could have ended a lot worse. So let me know what you guys think down below. That's going to do it for you guys. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this review, you guys know what to do with that thumbs up. I appreciate that. I appreciate your guys' support. Take it easy, guys. Bye.